Welcome. This is the Eastern Influenced Corporate Leader podcast, hosted by Alana May Mitchell, where each episode we tune in to Eastern wisdom.
Thanks so much, everyone, for listening to episode 3 now of the Eastern Influence Corporate Leader podcast. And I wanted to tune in on the original intention and the vision, and that was around corporate organizations inspiring people and leaders like yourself that are listening today to embody a more compassionate, more empathetic, more conscious, more kind, and all the other qualities that people who come on the show talk about in organizations. And what's been evolving in the last few conversations is indeed a new wave of being in a corporate organization. So with that, I have been really conscious that I'm listening to the people who are speaking and we're having a conversation, and then you're listening in that. And I thought, wow, there's really something in listening. So that leads me to introduce today the guest who's so kindly come on. And she is Sara Auster. And Sara Auster is a sound therapist, meditation teacher, and author. She has spent the past decade introducing sound baths to audience and unique environments all across the globe. Sara's transformative experiences and original teaching method have made her a leader in the sound bath movement, helping deep listening and sound meditation to go mainstream. She was recognized as a top meditation expert by Oprah magazine in 2016 and has featured in the New York Times magazine multiple times. And she's now, this is current, partnering with Audible to offer sound bath recordings that support listeners to sleep deeply. Sara, thanks so much for coming on board today.
Thank you for having me, Alana.
You're so welcome. So also Sara is in New York, so she's kindly devoted some of her day to this, and it's Tuesday over there and it's Wednesday here as well.
Isn't technology amazing?
Oh, it is. It so is. So I'd love to hear some more about your story and what led you to start offering sound baths to people.
Well, my story, it actually began when I was really young, and I had an older sister who became ill, and so I spent a lot of time as a visitor in hospitals with her. And I was very much aware at this very young age of trying to find ways to communicate with my sister, who at the time was non-communicative, through sound, through playing music, and also being aware of how cold and sterile a hospital environment was. So just from at a young age, being witness to this whole experience of illness and ultimately death. She passed away when I was 10. It really sparked me to explore at that time as an artist, our relationship to health and illness and our bodies. And I really explored that through my artwork into my 20s. And then when I was working as a mixed media artist, I was creating these large scale installations with sound and scent and very interactive. I was working in my studio on 42nd Street in Times Square, New York, and the floor collapsed underneath me, and I fell, and I broke my back in several places, and was really left, almost unable to do anything. Certainly unable to continue my career as an artist or musician. And at that time, I knew that there was more to this process of healing for me, and I didn't want to get sucked into the cycle of pain medicine and things like this, which were just very common to be prescribed. And even at that time, physical therapy wasn't something that was prescribed to me. And
Sure.
so that really set this inquiry even deeper, because now it was even more personal. Instead of
Mm,
just watching my sister, I was now experiencing my own physical pain, my own emotional trauma, and I needed uh, support in that healing journey. So I began to try all sorts of different things, including yoga and meditation and acupuncture. And if you can name it, then I tried it. And I I studied traditional Chinese medicine. I studied massage therapy because, as a modality, helped me in my own healing. I needed to learn more. I had an insatiable thirst to learn more about each one of these subjects. And ultimately, I began to teach yoga and meditation. And I left my artist musician self to the side for a while.
mhm.
And then after studying psychoacoustics and how sound affects the mind, and that integrating with my experience as a longtime meditator and meditation teacher, I started to integrate those two things. So, incorporating sound with mindfulness and facilitating these full body listening experiences.
Wow.
Um,
Is it, there's more?
Yeah, there's always more, isn't there? I
Okay.
feel like each one of our
Yeah.
stories is so unique. I mean,
Yeah.
it's what wasn't enough for me was that at the time, and mind you, this was almost 20 years ago now, when these types of modalities weren't mainstream, they weren't accepted, they were definitely labeled as weird or woo-woo, quote unquote, or terms like that people used to say. And so I was really interested in making them more accessible, because as a person who was skeptical, who was cynical, um, I had my doubts as well, and so it became my mission to make this work accessible, and that I really started to bring it out into unexpected spaces. So not the yoga studio, not the meditation studio, but the boardroom and the hospital and the public school, and various different places and museums, cultural institutions, and places like that. So that's where I am today.
Wow, incredible. I was going to ask you what a sound bath is, and we'll get to that. I wanted to tap into what came up just there. So the little girl, the 10-year-old girl, her creativity and that shining through, and also the curiosity that you showed with, what is this thing? What is the what did you say?
Oh,
Chris
psychoacoustics. Psycho,
psychoacoustics. Yeah,
yeah.
what is that? And the inquiry that you had there. What role would you say creativity and curiosity play for you now?
It's everything. It's a huge part in what motivates me to continue exploring what I'm offering through workshops and trainings and corporate engagement, and recordings like you mentioned that I do with Audible, um, because I believe that on a very deep level, we know as humans that sound and music has the ability to move us, but very few people question, why that is and how that is, and also how we can access that knowing when we really need it, when we feel really overwhelmed or sad or stressed. Then how can we remember that sound can be a really powerful tool for us to use in those moments? So
Mm.
yeah, and my work is very much informed by curiosity, by experimentation and exploration. Yeah.
And something that I tuned into with there's the vision of the Eastern influence corporate leader, which integrates consciousness, deep listening into that. Some of the flip of that is what you've mentioned, where there is stress in corporate environments and anxiety in corporate environments, and sound, as you're mentioning, I'm tuning into that, can be a way to not only put a band-aid on and make it better temporarily as you've gone through with your story. Like there's a journey of transformation that happens in that as well. So I just wanted to just technically, just for a moment, just what's your definition of a sound bath, so that people can, if they've never heard of it before, and I mean I have, and I know what that is. I'd love to hear it from you, Sarah.
Hmm. Well, at this point, there you might find a lot of different offerings that fall under that category. So here is my definition of a sound bath. It is a deeply immersive, full body listening experience where sound is used intentionally to invite therapeutic and restorative effects. So it's you as a participant are engaging with this practice of listening. You mentioned deep listening. I call it full body listening, which takes it a little bit deeper because you're engaging a few more of the senses while you're listening. And so there's a real low barrier for entry. It's a very accessible experience even to people who have been put off by meditation or things like that, because it takes away all strips away all of the judgment on you as a participant, because you can lie down and you can be comfortable. You can be seated or lying down. It's just the most important thing is always that you're comfortable. And then just engaging with your listening. There's really not much else that you need to know ahead of time to engage with a sound bath. So it's a very accessible experience.
And that's a beautiful teaching in there around being present as well. It's not like
Mhm.
you've got to prepare anything, you've just got to show up and
Right.
listen. And I love that where you've added the full body listening. And I wonder, I mean, with the full body listening, I know from yoga that yoga is an experience you have on the mat, and yoga is an experience that you have in life as well. So how does that work for full body listening?
Well, it's exactly that, and this comes from my years of yoga teaching from this tradition. Is how, and it's the saying that you've heard before, is how you do anything is how you do everything. And so as a yogi, as a meditator, that your experience and how you engage with it on the mat is a metaphor for how you move through the world in life, and how and who you are as a human being. And so how you listen and how you engage with sound, whether it's intentional sound or accidental environmental sound, says a lot about who you are, and that can shift. And just noticing how we might get triggered or affected by certain sounds can help us into a deeper dive into self-inquiry and understanding ourselves and that inner journey.
Mm, mm. I want to connect in with the full body listening and then the corporate piece, because I know from reading through, I think you've offered sound meditations at large corporates, organizations like Google, for example. What are some of the corporate experiences, sound experiences that you've offered, if you can mention who you've worked with?
Hmm. Um, yeah, in an instance like Google, it was a training program for executives, and it was designed to just help think differently, help to inspire creative ways of being and thinking. And a sound bath experience and full body listening really takes you to a place beyond mind. And a lot of the times in a corporate setting, a lot of the thinking, a lot of the planning, a lot of the marketing and whatever whatever people are doing is all in the mind. And the mind is working so hard. So it's taking a lot of these I hate to say corporate type people who really move from mind into a deeper sensory experience, just so that they can start to express in a way that uh, that's inspired by something deeper, something beyond the mind.
And what have some of the people said after those experiences? Because I can imagine because I work in a corporate role and I know very much what you're talking about. And I will be working with numbers. I'll need to work out my calculations, spit them out to people, get them across the benefits. And even as you were speaking that, I know from a coaching perspective that beyond the mind exists, and to understand it with the rational mind, it what are the benefits of sound baths? Like, it's just, you need to experience that, which we have a surprise in store. um it's like an experiential is the word I'm looking for, piece.
Mhm.
um so yeah.
Oh, you asked the question. What do people say
Oh yeah,
after this experience?
I did. Yeah.
Um, one in particular really stands out, who was a student of mine and also now a dear friend. She wrote the foreword of my book, Jessica Orkin, who is the CEO of SY Partners, and they are a business leadership consultancy. And they worked with the Dalai Lama and Oprah and the Obama Foundation. They advise leaders like
Mm.
this. Um, and so she has really been integrating, and this is from, from the top out, these practices of listening deeply, of showing up with her clients and people that she works with and for, uh, just fully open to hear and witness and receive their problems, what they're going through, without an agenda of how she's going to strategize. And she's expressed many times, you can also read in the forward of my book, how this is informed how she works with leaders. And so that's a really, really powerful story to me, that change can be affected in that way.
Absolutely. And especially when you have, it's like weaving into the hierarchy that organizations have. Most, in my experience, most organizations say that they would like to be less hierarchical. It's there. And so what you've been able to do with the sound bath is to work with that. And then it's not just the experience of the full body experience, the full listening. It's the informative, that how that ripples out further and beyond. So I think hearing that, the work that you've and the impact that you've been able to have is just incredible. Uh,
Thank you.
yeah. So I think what would be good is if someone has the experience that is coming up, they listen to it, they just be present, and all the things that we've spoken about, and they would love to say, I'd love to introduce this to my organization. Where might they find you? How might they go about that?
Well, that is simple. I'm very easy to find on the internet, and I have a website that is my name, Sara Auster, with no H, Sarah, SARA AUSTER.com. And that's my handle on social media, Instagram and Twitter and Facebook, all the same. And I really now I work with corporate organizations on a case by case basis, so it's very easy to fill out a form and contact me through my website. And I also have recordings available online with Audible and on my website, and there's lots to explore there as far as pre-recorded experiences go.
Thank you. So deep. So, what Sara has been so kind to offer is a sound bath, sorry, a sound bath full body deep listening experience. And so Sara is going to lead you into that in a moment. And if for you to fully participate in that, that closes our conversation that we've been having with the beautiful Sara this morning or this afternoon for New York. So please go ahead and dive into that experience. Thank you.
Thank you.
Take a comfortable seat or lay down. Allow your body a moment to relax and settle. Let your eyes close or gently look downward. Softly bring your awareness to your breath. Invite a slow breath in through the nose and exhale gently through the mouth. Now begin to listen attentively to any sound that arises. If a thought comes into your head, let it rise up like the sound of a car going by, and then let it fade away. Simply come back to listening. Slowly open your eyes, inviting in the light of your space, noting if anything has shifted in your body or your awareness. Thank you for listening.